I'm going to get started, but I want to ask Dominic, maybe you can either answer me this or give me a message. Can you see the screen right now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. And I know it's a little bit curved. I'm sorry about that. What's happening today, just so you all know, is last time I did this, I'm having a shadow a tech come in. So I'm having a student come in, a possible future student to shadow the program. And when I did this last time, it did not tape. In other words, I did a 3-hour presentation. The student could see it on screen, but it didn't tape. All right. Well, today I'm trying to fix that. All right. And make sure that both of them work. And I believe that it's taping right now because I've got a setting that's set up, but you can see it. I'm going to try to see real quick if I can straighten that picture out. If I can't, we're just going to go on from here. Sorry about that. I guess that's about the best that I can get it. So I'm going to leave it like that rather than monkeying with it and taking the chance of losing it. All right. So hello. Today is day 59 of our class. Today we're going to go and I'm going to show you what I did wrong yesterday with the SQL tester program. It's working now. The one that's out there that I put out there on the GitHub repo is working. All right, then next, I sent you a list today, a worksheet with a bunch of queries on it. I'm going to try to run through as many of those queries today as I possibly can. All right, tomorrow will be a lab period, as it says. No emails will be sent, no taping will be done. All right, your chapters 17 and 18 homework is due this weekend, this Sunday by midnight for chapter 17. Again, all you have to do is the written test. Some of you have turned that in already. For chapter 18, you have to do both the chapter 18 written test and those 3 problems, all right, that we had, the 3 link problems, those being the song search, the employee search, and the student grades. All right. Finally, this worksheet that we're going to start looking at in a few minutes, that plus the chapter 19 written test will then be due by Sunday, 4/14. We're going to go over all 25 of these problems. So you will actually have the solution. So I'm asking you basically to parrot, for lack of better words, what I'm doing. All right. So let's start by looking and seeing what the problem was that I had with the program that we did yesterday. All right. So I'm going to bring this back up, and for some reason I got 2 versions of it running. So let me get rid of one of them. There it is. All right. So when you run it now, what should happen at least, all right, is you bring it up here, run the program, and you come in and you say, for example, select star from customers. All right, you click execute. It shows you how many rows were returned. So I've got 28 customers and they're all there. All right, now if I had a humongous screen, I could probably show a lot more than I'm showing, but this is fine. It automatically added the scroll bar here. Plus, if you look, I can always take my mouse and put it in between, you know, any of 2 of the fields and draw it out. And there's extra room here, etc. But the point is, you can look at it now and hopefully you can tell that it all works. All right. So if I change this to select all customers, star from customers, and I put as an example here, where customer ID is greater than, let's just say 1020. All right. And that should give me all of these, right? Should. So execute and you see what happens. All right. You can do any type of query in here you want. Anything that I'm doing in here can also be done under SQL Server Management Studio. Now, I've been getting emails that some people are having problems with SQL Server Management Studio, and I want to make sure, if you remember on day one of the class, literally, and I did it before class started, all right, I showed you how to set everything up. And if you don't have your database stuff, you might have to go into and go take a look at, let's see. You might have to go down, and search in here for your Visual Studio installer. All right. And that comes up and it looks like this. All right. And it's got installed and then what's available in here as well. Okay. And there's more. You got to play around with the stuff that's in here. All right. But that's the Visual Studio installer. We want to make sure, if you remember, we did this at the beginning of the semester. There were three things that I told you. There were three things that I told you that you should set up in the installer. One was C#.NET .NET desktop environment. One was the ASP.NET that you'll be using in summer. All right. And one was the database thing that was in there. If that confuses you or if yours is not working, please email me. I will send you out the same email I sent out to another student this morning, and it's got the URLs for how to do all that stuff. All right, it's much easier for you to watch it from scratch, I think, than to have me try to fumble my way through it right now. All right, now going along with that, if you remember, one of the things I did yesterday was this. At the top of the program, we had this, but we didn't have that. We had this. We had using system dot, I don't even remember what it was, like SQL. No, maybe it wasn't that. Data dot SQL client. That's what we had yesterday. And the reason that I was having problems with all this yesterday and I had those errors is this is the old way of doing it. You do not do it like this anymore. All right, I'm going to show you right now the new way of doing it. Please don't let this confuse you, screw you up, whatever. But what we're going to have to do then is we're going to have to go in and under tools in your menu, under tools. All right. About halfway down, we're going to get to NuGet Package Manager. Not trying to be funny, but you're basically going to get intimate with this tool when you're in the AWD1100 class, because you're going to use it on virtually every program you do. All right. Now, there's three things that are in here. There's Package Manage Console, and I'm not going to click that, but if I did, it's going to bring up a console window down here where you can do a lot of different things. I'm not going to get into them right now. All right. On the very bottom are the Package Manager settings, and I don't think I've ever dealt with that one. But the one you will have to deal with on here to get the program I've got here to work is you'll have to go to NuGet Package Manager, and you'll have to choose Manage NuGet Packages for Solution right there. Now, if you look on my screen right now, I've got the installed chosen, and I've installed Microsoft.data.sql client. You need that one to be able to do this program. All right, and probably for some of the future programs. So how do you do that? Yours won't have anything installed. So you go over to Browse, and literally you can type in the box here, SQL. All right, and one of the ones that's in here is this one, Microsoft Data.data.sql client. If you click on it, you can see mine's installed already. But in order for yours to work, you will not be able to use the .NET framework. All right. In other words, remember when I created this, I didn't choose Windows App .NET Framework. I just chose Windows App. The reason that you can't use that the .NET Framework is in here. This is going to give you the different versions that are available. All right. And I don't think that there's any version that will work with .NET Framework. All right. I just chose the latest stable version. Again, I'm running version 8 here, and it came up with 5.2. And then I clicked on Project. When you click on Project, it highlights Project and then whatever's underneath there. Then you just click Install. Now, I've got it installed already. I'm not going to uninstall it because mine works. After you do that, it's going to come up and it's going to say, it's going to give you something that basically says, hey, if you, it'll basically come up and say, you know, like click OK to continue. And then you do that and it'll tell you to click OK again. And then it'll be installed. Once I did this and I got this to where it was installed, then I went back to my program, and in my program, so you can just close this when you're done. I then was able to put in this using Microsoft.data.sql client. That's the same package I just loaded using, all right, the same package I just loaded using the NuGet package manager. And all those errors I got, SQL connection, SQL command, these were all an error yesterday. Query adapter, data table, all those were giving me errors yesterday. Now I have no errors in my program. I did have 4 warnings in my program. So what I did was when I declared all of these variables in here, and this is all on the version I put out there, but I set all of them equal to null with an exclamation point afterwards, which said allow nulls. All right. And the reason I did that is if I take those off, I get 4 errors down here that say you can have a problem with nulls. I'm sorry, they weren't errors, they were 4 warnings. All right. But now there are no errors. Now there are no warnings in here. So, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we did yesterday, but taking this from the top, the first thing that we do in here is we create these global database variables. This is going to be our connection. All right. We saw that down below in here, con. That was, oh, where are you? Right there. All right. Okay, that's where we're using this. We declare it up here, but we're not giving it any value up here. All right, that'll be our connection. So we've got an SQL connection that's called con. We've got an SQL command. This is going to be used to represent whatever we're putting into the text box. All right, that's going to be our SQL command. This is our data adapter. We talked about this yesterday, and please remember that what the data adapter is, what it means is we have C# that's talking in C# language and SQL, which is talking in SQL language. The data adapter, as it says there, is the bridge. It provides this mapping that allows the 2 packages to communicate with one another. All right. A lot of times people will just call this adapter. I called it query adapter. It doesn't really matter. The data table, as it says, is the database table representation. This is what we end up, whatever this is what we end up copying into here. All right, just so you have an idea what's going on. So again, when we have our load event here, we're setting up everything. We're setting up a connection string right there. We're declaring that variable right there, var con string. And when we do that, we need to let the system know data source, which again, that's our server name. local DB / MSSQL local DB, followed by a semicolon, initial catalog, then equals, then we put in the name of our database. Finally, and this isn't mandatory, but it's recommended that you put in this, provide some additional Windows security. All right. So I've got that in there as well. Then, as it says, we create the connection. So this is the SQL connection, that constring I showed you way up above, and we're setting that up and we're setting it equal to what we're doing here. All right. So this was defined up here, SQL connection. And here is where we're setting it based on that connection string that we actually set up above it. Then we open this. All right. Now, most of this is pretty straightforward. So when we click the execute button, the first thing we do is we check to see if there's nothing in there. If there's nothing in there, and you saw this before, so if I don't put anything in there and I click the button to execute the query, that's right, there we go. That's what we get. Query text box left empty, nothing was entered into the text box. Exactly what you'd expect. So if we get down to here, something was in there. And what does that mean? That means we entered something into the text box. What we entered into the text box may be invalid. We could have put garbage in there or something else. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that in a minute. But the way you have to do this is you have to do what's shown right here. You clear out that query command, you instantiate a new adapter, and you instantiate a new data table. The reason that they're done out here, we could have put them in here, all right? But if we put them in here, they're only available in here. They wouldn't be available lower on or later on in our program if we needed them. All right, but defining them here, they're available throughout this whole routine. So again, we come in, we instantiate our query command. What this says is whatever we put into our text box, all right, that is going to be our SQL command. All right, and again, hopefully that makes sense. Then we set up the query adapter. All right, and we're saying that command is going to be a select command. There are other ones that you can use in here other than just select. There is one for insert, there is one for update, there is one for delete. All right, this would have been a much more complex program if we would have set this thing up so that rather than just doing select statements, you could also do inserts, updates, and deletes. But notice if I come in here and try doing an insert, all right, so if I run this and I try, let's just say, I'll say insert into customers, all right, and right away it's going to come back and say incorrect syntax near customers. It's because it doesn't understand the word insert, all right? Okay. So then we come in here and we call the fill method of our query adapter, and that's going to take everything that is in our table, all right, that's in our SQL table, and it's going to basically copy it into the query adapter. All right, then we're going to take that information and we're going to put it in the actual data grid view. It's a little funky the way that it works, but that is how it works. Finally, as it says here, we're going to set the number of records. So notice table has got a rows property in it, and the rows property has got a count property in it. And that's how many records were returned. If it fails, we're just calling our typical show error message. All right, we're setting it equal to nothing, and we're telling it to focus. Now, you've seen this before, but notice if I come in here and run this, and I type in select star from customers, and I'm purposely spelling customers wrong here. It says select star fro customers. So I get an error. It says incorrect syntax near fro. All right. And it's telling us the type of exception that it is. All right. It's an SQL exception and it's clearing it out. If I come in and say, select star from customer as opposed to customers, all right, it's giving me now another exception, but it says again, invalid object name customer. That is the messages that are being given to us in that catch statement, because I said catch any exception and catch ex.message and then ex.getType.toString. That's what this is. All right. And the rest of it is just stuff that we've been doing since the beginning of the semester. All right. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go through and I am going to show you in here. All right. Let's just start by bringing up the worksheet. Okay. There's 25 problems in here. There's a lot of problems. All right. Some of them are pretty easy. Some of them are pretty doggone tough. All right. But I'm going to take my time and try at least to run over all of these with you. All right. So notice what it says here. Write SQL queries for each question. For each example, when necessary, use aliases. If you don't know what that means, just watch. I'm going to put each answer right underneath where I am. And I'm going to make it red and I'm going to make it bold. So you can hopefully see everything that I'm keying in. All right. So the first example here says, insert a new customer into the customer table. All right. Well, again, I can't do that one. I can't do that one in here. I don't have the ability to do that because we don't have insert capability. But I should be able to come in here and start up SQL Server Management Studio. Once it comes up, again, we're told to enter a new customer in here. All right, so I'm connecting. I'm going to my databases. I'm going down to my sales order database. In my tables, I'm going to look at, for customers, I'm going to look at the design. And you can see all of these allow nulls, except for the ID. That's not great practice, but I'm going to go and fill it in. I'm going to fill in everything. So I'm going to write a query right in here, just so you can see it. Then I'll copy it over into my Word document, make sure everybody can look at it. All right. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to right mouse click on the name of my database, sales orders, and choose new query. All right. And now I'm going to write it here. All right. So I want to insert into customers. The only field that I don't have to, that I'm not going to add here, the only one I'm not going to add is the customer ID. So I've got customer first name, customer last name. And you can put this on multiple lines. I just want you to be able to see everything. So customer street address, customer city, customer state, customer zip code, okay, customer area code, and customer phone number. All right, so those are my fields. Then I need to say the word values. I don't have to segregate this stuff like I've done it. I put the first and last name together. Then I put the address, city, state, zip together, then etc. They could have all gone on one line. I could put each one of them on their own line. And this is case insensitive. So I could have put everything that's in here in lowercase. I could have put everything in here in uppercase. All right. But I'm going to put me in here. So after values in parentheses, I'm going to put my first name, my last name. Since those are strings, every time I have a string in here, the strings must be put within single quotes. All right. The address, All right, not there we go. The city, the state, the zip code, and the zip code was put in as a string. All right, then finally, the area code, which for whatever reason was put in as an int. And finally, the phone number. All right, and then in the paren. So Jeff, first name, Scott, last name, 751 Parr Road, street address, Wentzville City, MO State, 63385 zip code, 314, area code, 286-3675 phone number. That's the entire query. If this works, my screen will be split in two and it'll say one row added down here. So let's run it. Or affected, not added, I'm sorry. So one row affected. How do I know whether or not it worked? Well, first let me copy this. So I've got it. All right. But now I can come in here and I can say, select star from customers. And when I click execute and I go down to the bottom, there I am. Now I've got John Doe in here and your numbering might be different than mine. I was playing with it before. All right, but notice I've got an ID, a first name, a last name, an address, a city, a state, a zip code, an area code, and a phone number. So all of it worked. That's a simple insert statement and a check that you can put in to verify or validate whatever you want to say that it worked. All right, so here's that query. All right, but I'm going to pretty it up a little bit so you can read it. All right, so I'm going to grab, in fact, let's do this. I'll grab that. Yeah, shouldn't have done that. That's okay, we'll fix it right now. All right, and I'm going to make it red and bold, like I said, with all of these. So that is the first query that you are to put in. All right, if nothing else, hit the print screen key on your keyboard, which will, and save this, save 25 of these. All right, and then key them in yourselves. And I'm doing this because we're going to start working more and more heavily with queries, and you've got to have something you can fall back on to take a look at it and make sure that it works. So that's the first one. Second, show the queries to show the number of records in each table. Well, hopefully you remember we have, I don't know, like 8 tables. So just to show you this, I'm going to show you one of them, and then I'm going to put them all in. But, and I should be able to do this from here, should work just fine. All right. So I'm going to come in here and say select, count, star from categories. And it should come back with the number 6. Execute, and that says 6. I realize it's a little hard to see. All right. Now, a couple things about this. Notice it calls it column 1, which is a crummy name. So what I'm going to do, so I can run all of these at once so you can see them, is let me go back to here. All right, and I'm going to put in this first one that we just did right there. But I'm going to pretty it up a little bit. All right, what do I mean? Well, it said what you were supposed to do. It does again, what you put in here for the caseness doesn't matter. But I'm going to call this, I'm going to say here as number category records. Just like that. All right, now it's going to give me a problem when I try to run this because you may or may not be able to tell, but these are smart quotes because I'm in Microsoft Word. All right, so I'm going to have to come into here and just put in one of these, a single quote like this. And I want to make sure I'm using those. All right, So that'll be our first query. And I'm going to put a semicolon on the end. Now I'm going to copy this a bunch of times. Why? Because we've got 8 different tables. So this is going to be number of customer records, and that'll be from customers. Then next, this will be the number of employee records from employees. All right, then next, and the order in which you do these wouldn't matter. All right, this will be the number of vendor records from vendors. Next, we'll have the number of product records from products. All right, then we're going to have the number of product vendor records from product vendors. 2 more, the number of order records from orders. And finally, the number of order detail records, and that's from order details. All right, doesn't matter here that well, my capitalization again doesn't matter. So again, I'm going to take this red and bold. Now I'm going to grab this query. I'll come back to it in a moment, but I'm going to grab it, copy it to the clipboard, go into into here and run it. So you can see there's a bunch of them. All right, and as soon as I run this, it gives me, it says number of category records 6, number of customer records 29, number of employee records 8, number of vendor records 10, number of product records 40, number of product vendor records 90, number of order records 937, number of order detail records 3951. So all of these queries that were in here worked. So this is the answer to the second query. Again, what I do on here, what I would do if I were you, is up on somewhere on the top of your keyboard, up by your function keys on top, there should be a key that either says print screen or it says PRTSC. And I'm going to hit that key right now. All right. Then I'm going to go into Paint. Just type in Paint here. And now I'm going to paste that in. So now I've got that query. You should be able to do the same thing with yours. All right. Otherwise, if you can't, for whatever reason, you don't have Paint loaded or whatever, but it should come with any Microsoft machine, it'll probably take you a little longer than to do the assignment. All right. So that's the second one. All right. And again, I could have done that in either one of these. Next, we want to show the highest priced product, the lowest priced product, and the average priced product. All right. So again, let's go into here. I'm just going to bounce back and forth between these, but I'm going to say select max product price. And we'll put max in caps also. Again, you don't have to do that, but comma, min product price. And then AWD product price. All right. From products. Now, there's just one thing about this. It's going to work. Okay. And I'm going to copy it, but it's going to work. So we run this and we get the biggest, the smallest, etc. Now, let's pretty it up. All right. So I'm going to come down to here. Oops. All right. So I'm coming down to here and pasting it in. Somehow I lost a little of it, but no problem. So select max. Well, I'm going to put each one of these on their own line. If you haven't already figured out why, you'll know why in about 30 seconds. All right. I'm going to use as in here, and I'm going to say as highest price. This one will be as lowest price. And this one will be as average price. All right, from products. Again, I'm going to have problems with these goofy smart quotes. All right, there maybe is a way to turn those off. I don't know. I've never investigated that, but I'm just going to change all those back to regular quotes. You don't have to worry about doing this if you do it from inside of SMMS. All right, so let's take this, let's bold it and make it red, and let's see if it works. Again, we can do it from either one. It's kind of harder to read from here, but just to show you, we can put it in here, execute it, and we get them all. All right. If I do it from here, from inside of here, and let's remove all this, and I run it, all right, it's going to be probably a little bit easier to see down here. Maybe, maybe not. All right. Now, the one thing I don't like is the average price is $196 and 9.933500. Well, what I can do with the average is I can tell the system to round it. And I want to round, what do I want to round? Product price. And I want to round it to 2 decimal places. In fact, I think I got to do it like this. Like that. Let's see if that works. It did not like it. Okay. So round average. Maybe I need it there. Average requires 1 argument. All right. So it is this. All right. And it doesn't like it like this. Average product price. When I did that, it did not round it. Let's see if I do it the other way. All right, I'm telling you now to round product price to 2 decimal places and then give me the average. All right, it still didn't do it. Now, average does work, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong in here. All right, I'd have to look it up. It's totally fine. All right, and in fact, I'll just grab this one. If you want to put it in and round it, fine. If you don't want to round it, also fine. What I am more concerned with here is that you're starting to develop an understanding of what we're actually doing here. All right. All right. So that was number 3. Number 4, and I'm going to keep going. At 9 o'clock, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a bunch more. And then around 10 o'clock, we'll take another 10-minute break, etc. All right. And I'm hoping we can get done with all 25 of these. Is 25 too many to give you? Possibly. All right. I sat and wrote these things last night. All right. I spend quite a bit of time working on them myself. I don't know why that changed that. That should be a 4, but it did what it did. All right. So show the total quantity on hand of each product. All right. All right. I have Shadow Attack coming in right now. So I just want to tell you that I'm just going to not take a break, but for a couple minutes, just acclimate him into what's going on. All right. Okay. Good morning. Just have a seat. Sorry, for some reason that's kind of acting wonky today. So you can see it's a little bit curved, but this class is an introduction to the C# programming language. So I've got just a couple people, there's 12 in the class, and most of the people work full time during the day. So what I do is I take everything that I do and it's taped. All right. It tapes it in Microsoft Teams for me. And then I take that and I've got my own YouTube channel. And in fact, I'll give you all that information in just a bit. But I've been here almost 8 years, and I've got about 3,000 videos out there.
Awesome.
It's my voice and the computer. All right, it's the old joke. I've been told I got a face for radio, that kind of thing. But so they never see me, all right, unless I turn the mic on, and I don't. And with students, they're more than welcome to show up whenever they want. Some of them come every day. Some of them come, as their schedule at work permits. All right. And if students have questions, they can break in through Teams and they can ask if they have them, or they can send me a message and it'll come up in here right away, etc. Now, normally, I'm not going to lie to you either. I come in here usually on Mondays, some Thursdays, but I do most of my broadcasting from my house because this is totally online.
Right.
All right. And what I'll show you, I forgot to bring a copy, but Patrick has one, is I'll show you the whole program setup when we take our break. What we're doing now is in this class, out of the 12 people, 10 of them took a class with me last summer. So they learned website design. They learned, how to use HTML, hypertext markup language, CSS, cascading style sheets. They learned some programming with JavaScript. 2 of the people in here, this is their first class. And so they're not behind the 8 ball at all. In fact, they're doing very well in the class. All right. But you can start basically in almost any semester, but you either are going to take first the AWD1100 class, which is web design, then this one. Then there's 2 other classes that you take second year, or you're going to flip those 2, depending on when you start. All right. And there's a couple other things, and I'll explain them to you in just a bit. Where we are in this class is the book that we have. It's about an 800-page book. It's not small. And it's called Murox C# 8th edition. And it's got about 5 sections in it. We're beginning the last section now. They're learning how to use databases. All right. And that's what we've been working on. So we wrote a program yesterday. So for instance, if I take this, they now know 2 ways that they can run this. This is a query. So we're asking the database information. They can either bring it right in here and ask. And when they do that, they get the results here. I realize it's a little hard to read, but they get the results there. Or they can bring it and we've actually written a C# program. All right. So when they run it, this is what we just went over before class, or at the beginning of class today. So it looks like this, and we can put the query in there, and it's even harder to read up here, but and you execute it and there's the answers. All right. So they're learning that stuff. And what's going to happen is this is the 3rd database we've been working on. This is the most complex one. It has 8 tables in it that are all related directly or indirectly to one another. So they're learning how to combine information from those tables and do what's typically referred to as data mining, where you get asked a question, you dig through the data to look for the answer. All right. Next week, we're going to work with 1 other database. We'll probably work with 2 more this semester, but they're both going to be related to like books and bookstores, where they'll have titles, etc. And we're going to start working on that next week. And they're going to have kind of a hybrid, or sort of a copy of that they're going to work with on their own. Every semester, students have to do a project. And the project that they will do in here is they'll be working on this books database, and they'll have to do a lot of different types of manipulation and stuff with it. So that at least got you started as far as what we're doing. So, all right. So again, coming back then now, what I've been doing, as I mentioned in here, is I've been showing you on here the answers to every one of these questions. All right. This language, even what I'm doing in here, is I'm taking keywords and capitalizing them so they know what the keywords are. But it's case insensitive, so we could put everything in here in lowercase if we wanted to. All right, so we've done 3 so far. We're up to number 4. Okay. Show the total quantity on hand for each product. All right. Well, if we want to show it for each product, we're going to have to do some grouping, which is going to imply that we're doing a group by, and we looked at one of those yesterday. So let's go in and do this. So I'm going to type it in first. We want the product ID, the product name, and this is something kind of new, sum of product QTY. So that's going to go through every record that's in our table, and it's going to grab that product quantity that's in there. So if we have the same product in there 5 times, and one time it's got a 1, then it's got a 10, then it's got a 3, etc. It's going to add the 1, the 10, and the 3, and it's going to give us 14. All right, we only want to list that once, and we want to give that a name. We could do this, so we can come in here and say, again, we can alias and say as product ID, and then for here, as product name, and for here, as total QTY, total quantity, something like that, from products. Now I'm going to do the group by. So group by product ID and product name. All right, so that is the query. Now, again, I've got to go back in. I'm working with 2 different software packages here. So this is Microsoft Word, and when it puts quotes in here, it puts them in as what are known as smart quotes that the database doesn't understand. So I've got to manually go back in and change all those back so that they're not smart quotes anymore. All right, so let's take this one, and again, we will run it in both places. All right, so I'm going to take it and run it first here under SMMS. Okay, and it's kind of hard to see. I realize that there's no way to make this bigger. All right, I can't, mouse wheel on it or anything, but each product, so notice that product 1 has 40 in stock, product 2 has 14 in stock, etc. And they're all in here. We have 40 products. We've got some on hand of each product. Now, we could do an order by in here if we wanted to too. We should at least be able to say order by, and I should be able to say that total QTY again. And let's put it in descending order. So the biggest one that we have should be first. Now, it may not like that. It's giving me the underline, but we'll see. It did take it. All right. So you can see now they're in order. Okay. But they're in order by quantity, but they're not. So we could do that and then also say next product name. All right. So when we run it again, we get the same output, but now these products that have 40, they're in alphabetic order. All right. So this is really the complete answer for that particular problem. So let me put that one back in there. All right, so there that is. So again, we're selecting the product ID and aliasing it or renaming it as just product ID, because otherwise it looks kind of bad when it runs together. All right, product name, we're doing the same thing. This literally by default, that's going to be the name of the column. Sum parenthesis product QTY parenthesis, which looks kind of poor. I'm setting this up so that if you were creating this as maybe you were going to be setting up reports for a supervisor or whatever, all right, that you'd be able to do that. So we're selecting these 2 fields. We're creating a new field. They're all from our same table, all from the products table. We're grouping it by product ID and product name, and we're doing an order by on that. All right. Now I do want to show you one last thing. We need to put product name in here. If I leave that out, so if I leave out product name, I'm going to get an error. It says product name is invalid in the select list because it is not contained in either an aggregate, and sum is our aggregate there, or in the group by. So I'm not including it. So even though I'm technically not really using it in here, I still have to put in product name. And when I do that, that gets rid of the error that I had. All right. So sometimes you got to play around with this stuff to get it to work the way you want it to work and do whatever it is you want it to do. All right. Now, many of the next examples that are in here, all right, I wrote this yesterday as I was watching television. This was a dumb thing to do, but sometimes there'll be a little easier queries, then we'll have some harder ones, then we'll go back to some easier ones. I should have separated them out and done all the easier ones first, but you're going to see a mixture in here. All right, just so you know that. So let's take a look at the next problem in here. It is 8:55. We'll do this one, then we're going to take a break. All right. So number 5 says, show each separate product name with no repeats. Now, since we want no repeats, hopefully that sends a signal to you. We talked about this in class, that there is a distinct that you can put in there that will throw out any matches that we have. So show each product name with no repeats along with a category description. Now that's in 2 different tables. The product name is in the product table. The category description is in the categories table. That means we're going to have to join the 2 tables together. We can do that because both the product table and the categories table, they both have a category ID in them. So again, I'm going to write the query here, copy it and show it to you. And this time we'll jump back into the program so you can see it in there. So it'll be select. Now you can say distinct, which is what we want to do. I always put mine into parentheses. All right. They changed this over time that you do not have to parenthesize this anymore. So I could just say distinct space. I think it's better to do it this way. It's showing what is really basically coupled along with a distinct statement, but either way will work. All right. And then C dot category description. All right. Now I am aliasing both of these. All right. So distinct. And right now I'm not going to worry about using as or whatever in here. All right. Because I want to get through the join here. So this is going to be from products, which we call P. All right. Join categories, which we called C, and we have to tell it what we're joining it on. So on P dot category ID equals C dot category ID. All right, and we want to order it by the description and ascending order, and then the product name. Also in ascending order. Now in here right now, since I didn't do any as, I don't have to worry about fixing the smart tags or anything in here. Let me grab this, make it red, make it bold, copy it, and let's put it into, we'll start it in here. We'll see if it works. All right. All right. It says incorrect syntax near the word as. Oh, because on the end, when I copy this in, I didn't put a C in there for ascending. All right. All right. Invalid product name, product. What is that? It's products, not product. All right. I'd like to say, you know what? I made a couple errors just so you could see that no, because I screwed it up. But what you can see now is I've got each product. How many products do we have? We have 40 of them. And we're seeing the category that each product belongs in. All right. And as I told you, if I leave off the parentheses here and just put in a blank space and I run it again, it still works and it looks exactly the same. All right. So it's up to you whether or not you want to put that in. Also, product name that's right here is only in the products table. Category description is only in the categories table. So I technically don't need this, don't need this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this. All right, even though it's flagging some of that as being erroneous, if I run this. In fact, I do need it here. I'm going to get an error. Think about why. It says incorrect syntax near the equal sign. It doesn't know that one of these is for products and that one of these is for categories. All right. So doing it like this, since I removed that aliasing that I did, I'd have to type here products dot, and I'd have to type here categories dot. Now, boom, it works again. All right. I could put here products dot product name, categories dot category description, or as I did, I could come in here and alias these with P dot or whatever I want to call it for an alias, C dot, and then products P from categories C. Then I could have said here P dot category ID and C dot category ID, and then again a C dot here and a P dot here. So you can see if I run this again, all right, it still works. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I mentioned to you before, I know several people who do this for a living. And with some of them, they fully qualify everything they're doing. They don't alias. So they would have written this as select distinct products.product name, comma, categories.category description from products, join categories on products.category ID equal categories.category ID, order by categories.category description, ascending, products.product name ascending. Also remember that since ascending is the default, we don't even need to add it. We only need to add something there if it's in descending order. So if I run it like this, notice again, I'm getting the same output. And we can grab that same command. We can put it into our program here. Clear that, paste that in, and execute it. I just thought it's a little harder to see in here. I don't know which one of these actually shows better on the screen. All right, but they're all still in there, 40 rows, one for each product. All right, so that is number 5. It is 9:02. Let's take a break and let's come back, please, at 9:15. We're just going to continue on. We're going to see how many of these things we can get done between now and the end of class. All right, so I will see you at 9:15. Let me grab that and I'll be right back. All right, so this is a description of all the classes in the program. There are 4 classes. There's 1 instructor. So the first year, you go from Monday through Friday from 8:05 a.m. till 11:55 a.m. So they're 3 hours and 50 minutes Monday through Friday. Second year, you go from 12:05 p.m. to 3:55 p.m. So I got a 10-minute lunch break. And then I go into the afternoon. Now this semester, I asked for a lighter load because I had stuff going on in my personal life. My daughter just had a kid and stuff. So I'm helping out with that. So, but second year then is afternoon classes. They're all Monday through Friday. The entire program is online. If you decide, yeah, I kind of like this, but man, I'd rather be in a classroom. And in St. Louis, they actually have a seated version of this. So I've we provide tutors and stuff for people who have problems, but I've have one student that she doesn't seem to get along with her tutor. So I told her she can come in here, but she's actually going into St. Louis and sat in a couple of their lectures, and they don't have any problem with you doing that. Okay. All right. But like I said, and there's 2 people who teach it at the St. Louis campus. One teaches the first year stuff, one teaches the second year stuff, where I teach both, but they sometimes run multiple sections if they have enough people. You know, like I said, with 12 in here, no, I won't lie to you either. It's hard. And what I mean is we've lost a third of the class. All right. And the reason for that is people don't realize there's a lot of work in it. But the course itself, if you look on there, it's like 14 credits. Now I used to teach, I'm from Wisconsin, and I used to teach at a technical college in Wisconsin. All of our classes were 3 credits. So this is the equivalent of almost 5 of one class here is like 5 of those. That's why when people say, well, you give a lot of homework. Yes, we do. And it's very regimented. So typically in most classes, there's 3 components. Well, actually, well, more than that, but the 3 main ones are you get written tests. They're usually like about 15 to 20 questions. They're all the information in the chapter of the book, and they're multiple choice. You know, just A, B, C, D type of things. The way I grade those is if you turn it in, you've given an effort, most of them are right, you get a C. If there's 20 questions and you get 18 or 19 of them right, you'll get an A. You know, if you get maybe 4 or 5 wrong, you'll get a B type of thing. But if you do make an effort, you get a C for it. All right. So that's written tests. Then there's homework. Some call it homework, some call it labs, but you know, sometimes they call it a hybrid and they give it both, but it's the same thing. And like the way that I do it in here, as an example, let's see if I've got that here. Yeah, this is what we were working on last week. So we were working on something called link. You don't have to worry about what it is, but the idea is, notice in here, I gave them a list of 75 songs. All right. And this was a drop down list here. So you could say, show them by artist, show them by title, show them by genre, etc. Or you could search for one. So if I wanted to see how many of these songs had love in them, I could search all songs by title with criteria. I could put love in there, click that, and it would find all the ones with love in the title. All right. And you can see that this is in alphabetic order based on artist when you take a look at that. So we did that. And since it was a new topic, we did it together. So I did it. Now, when I do this, if it's their homework, the way that I do it is I don't save it for them. They've got to do it themselves because otherwise they could just make a copy. Right. You know, so we did that and we ended up doing this one together too. This is most of the stuff we do in here is GUI. It's graphical user interface. This one was not. This is a console application. So we built a menu. And you know, you could ask questions and you would get information back. This one I made them do themselves. So just so you can see kind of what they look like. Grab that. I know I got it in here someplace. Let's see. So for instance, just so you see it, I'll grab, hoping this is the right one, because if it's not, it's going to have an error in it. So let's see if this is the right one or not. So all right, that's good. So like I said, you come in here and you say, okay, search for songs by title. Okay, search. Well, what do you want? I want the word love. Okay, and click OK, and you can see the ones that come up. So what we did here is we're creating what's called a C# list. We're simulating a database. All right. And then now we're navigating into an actual database. Mm-hmm. So even though I'm a little all over the place here, in that first class, you learn basic website design. You learn how to create websites. Now, sometimes people come in, and I had a guy come in a few years ago. He was already doing it for a living. Oh, so he said, can I test out of the class? And I said, yeah, there is a test out for each of these first 2 classes, but you can only take 1 test out. You can only test out of one of those 2. So he tried to test out, and he did. And I said, and I noticed the next semester he still signed up. And I was like, you don't have to sign up for this. He says, I've been doing this for years, and there's certain things I do, but I don't know why I'm doing them, because he's totally self-taught. So he took the class and he said he was glad that he did anyway.
Mhm.
You know, I only had one other person take it, and with these self-tests, or these test out rather, you had to make a website with 4 pages in it, and then we grabbed 130. The books that we use, there was probably about 400 questions, and I grabbed 130 of them. You had to get 70% right, so you had to get 90 out of 130 right. He didn't do it 70%.
Wow.
So he didn't pass. He ended up taking the class. He did fine anyway.
Yeah.
But I've had no one try to test out of this class, the C# one yet. But there is a test out for that too. And so the first semester you learn basically how to set up, create websites, etc. Then in the second semester, it's like I said, it's C# here. Then in the third semester, all right, it's kind of a hybrid class. But the one, it says AWD1100. And if you look in there, it talks about using something called the MERN stack. It's sort of an extension of the first class that you take. But the first class you take, you're doing it from an end user perspective. This class, you're doing it more from the machine perspective. So you're learning more of the innards. It's not hardware. There's no hardware in the program, but you're writing a lot of different things and you learn a lot of different technologies. In fact, MERN stack that's in there, that's 4 different technologies. It's a different database called MongoDB. That's the M. E is Express, R is React, and N is Node.js. In the first semester, you learn JavaScript and you learn how to write it on the client, on your machine, for somebody else. In that class, you write JavaScript on the server, so it's more machine
So
based.
like backend?
Yeah, it is
Okay.
very good. Yeah. So the first class is front end and the second one is back end.
Okay.
The idea is we want to make you a full stack developer.
Okay.
And then in the fourth semester class is sort of an add-on or tie-on to this class that we're in now. They learn how to write web apps with C#. Now they're writing desktop applications. So they write web apps and they use C# in conjunction with something called ASP.NET. ASP is active server pages. And they write that, but they actually write things that eventually they have to put those out on the internet. Every semester, students have to work on a electronic portfolio, and they update it every semester. And it's different things, picture of them and a link to their resume, etc., and a bunch of stuff like that in it. And they get graded on that as well. And we're doing that because we found that prospective employers, what they want is they don't want an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper like that with a resume. They want to see examples of your work. We save everything that we work on here. We save it out to GitHub, and I don't know if you know what that is or not, but basically it's you put stuff out on the internet. There's a server out there that somebody else has, and you can put stuff out there for free. You typically make it private, but you give me an invite. So that's how I grade your homework. If you're going to take this and make it available for somebody else to look at, a prospective employer, you can make it public for them, and you learn how to do that. All right. So, and I mean, we've been successful. We've got a lot of people who've gotten jobs. I'm not going to lie to you though. The hard part about the program now is a lot of big companies are laying off people. All right. And it's been tough. So we have people who are looking for jobs. We have people who've gotten jobs right after they graduate, and etc. Now, Evan, who's one of my counterparts, he's actually my boss, but he teaches second year at St. Louis. He also tries every year to see if he can get 1 or more internships for people. And that has led to jobs. Typically, those internships are in St. Louis. And if he only has 1 or 2, whether that's fair or not, he gives them to his students first. You know what I'm saying? So I haven't really had the chance to go and put a lot of people into internships. So, and like I said, if you look on the bottom there, that's my YouTube channel.
Okay.
And if you go out there, and I believe in the idea of try before you buy, that you should see what you're getting yourself into. All right. And Patrick will tell you, I mean, everybody's different. I try to give at least 1 day a week that I call a lab day. So I'm online, but there's no lecture. They get sent an email every day about what we're talking about. I don't give them an email that day. They also get an email after the lecture telling them what we did and where the link is to the YouTube presentation. But if it's a lab day, we don't do that. And I'm available for the entire 4 hours. And when they take, I started to mention this before. So there were written tests, there's labs and homework. There's also what we call HOTS, a hands-on test. That is different. If you take that in St. Louis and you take it at 8 o'clock, you've got to turn it in by noon when you leave. Here, since people are taking it at all different times, I get it to them by 7 a.m. It's due by midnight that night. So they've got, whatever that is, 17 hours to work on it, if they would need that, you know what I'm saying? But that's what makes it a little bit different. All right. And again, like I said, we use what's called GitHub on here, Git and GitHub, to set up everything. And we go over how to do all this stuff. If you go look at the stuff for this class, for example, you'll see I went out and did about 40 or 50 lectures before the semester started. I went over the PowerPoints in the book. I'm not a big PowerPoint guy. I don't like to read to people. All right. So I went and did those on my own and put them out there. So sometimes people learn better through that. So they're able to do that kind of stuff. So, all right. Okay. So we're back. It's 9:15. So let's get going. And we've so far done the first 5 examples that are in here. Okay. So, which means we're up to number 6. Write the same exact query from number 4 above, but group the results by category ID. All right, so there's no group by in here. So let's start by, I'm just going to grab this, copy it, and I'm going to paste it in here because it says it's the same query. Of course, we are changing it a little bit. All right, but let's see what we can do, how we do it, etc. All right, so we've got in here so far, okay, select distinct. Well, we're going to group this by category ID. So distinct is going to go out the window right now. All right, so we can get rid of that to begin with. So we're selecting the product name, the category description from, and that should be products, from products, P, join categories on P.category ID equals this. That's all fine. And the order by. But we want to do a group by. And we want to do the group by. The order in here matters. Remember that the last couple of weeks we were looking at link, and in link you write from, then a join, then an order by, then a select. Here it's almost, the order is almost reversed, but we have to put a group by in here. So we're going to say group by E.product name, C.category description. Think that that's right, unless I spelled something wrong, which is always possible with me, but let's order by, and I need, again, ASC in there. Remember, to say ascending is a little bit redundant, so I could leave those off and it would work just fine. All right, but let's see if this works. Now, when we ran the last one, we got 40 products. All right. I don't know if we're going to get that many this time or not. We're grouping it by. So we're still getting 40. In fact, it looks very similar to what we just did. All right. What you are learning in here, okay, you're getting a grasp of the fundamentals of SQL. We have 3 or 4 chapters in our book that are going over this, maybe 100 pages. You can get 1,000-page books on SQL. There's a lot of stuff in here we don't go over because it's just the time constraints. There's just no way to do it. All right. But that is number 6. So for number 7, you're getting a little bit harder now. Okay, what do I mean? Well, notice what it says here. It says, show the vendor name. So that's going to come from the vendors table. The product name. So that's going to come from the product table. The quantity ordered, and I believe that's also in quantity on hand. All right, I think those are both from, one of them is from the vendors table and one of them is from the product vendors table. Bottom line is we're now going to join together 3 tables. All right, and then we're going to go back and rewrite it. Do not have repeats. So we're going to add distinct to our vendor name. Okay, so let's go and write this. Now, again, I'm not putting in here as, and then we put in, it's going to take too much time to do that today. All right. If you don't do it, I'm not going to take off. If you do it, you're not going to get any extra points for doing it. But it's good. Your queries are going to end up looking a little bit more professional if you do put an as in there and give these things better names than what I'm doing. So again, those are the 4 fields that I'm looking for. All right. Some of the stuff is in the vendors table. Some of the stuff is in the product vendors table. Some of the stuff is in the products table, and some of the stuff is in the order details table. So I'm actually joining together 4 or 5 different tables here. All right, so let's start doing it. Remember, it's always join. And then basically, what are we joining? Well, we're joining the product vendors. In the order in which you do these doesn't matter. Product vendors, which I call PV, all right, on, all right. In fact, let's do it like this. I missed a line here, so that's correct, but I got to come down here. We want to say from where are we getting the sums from, rather. So from vendors, all right, then we want to join product vendors. So we're going to join product vendors onto vendors. And we have to have a field in common between the two, and we do. So we have v.vendor ID equals pv.vendor ID. All right, that's the first join that we're doing. Then we want to do another join here. So another join. All right, and this one will be products key on, and we've already got, we want to join the products table with the product vendors table. So we want to say key dot product ID equals PV dot product ID. All right. So there's our second join. And then we're going to do a third one. So a join. And this will be order details, which again, I called OD. And I'm joining that on P dot product ID equals OD dot product ID. And finally, those are all our joins, but we want to say where OD dot order detail quantity ordered is greater than P dot product quantity. It's pretty ugly, but let's talk about it in English as far as what it is. All right. What has been ordered by people where currently we do not have enough stock on hand to fill that order? All right. So we're grabbing that information, but we're doing it where the quantity ordered, not orders, where the quantity ordered is greater than the actual product quantity we have on hand. All right. Let's see if I wrote it correctly. It's down. All righty. Says invalid column name product D because I didn't put an I in there. Okay, so it's now ID. And when you notice here, notice there's 6 ordered and only 5 on hand. All right. And you can notice that every column here, the number should be bigger than the column over here. So there are 78 products that we have in here right now. All right. But some of them actually are repeats, and we're going to get rid of those repeats in just a moment. So that is the correct answer right here. So again, let's make it red and bold it. So that is the answer to number 7. All right. Again, vendor name, product name, quantity ordered, quantity on hand. We want to do that where the quantity ordered is greater than the quantity on hand. So we're joining together the vendors table, the product vendors table, the products table, and the order details table. So we're able to get all of those pieces of information. All right. And let's grab this because the next query is the same thing with a couple of minor changes in it. All right. So it says write the same query. This time do not have repeats in the vendor name. Well, you already learned this from earlier. That means we put distinct right there. And again, I like to put this into parentheses. All right, let me take all this, make it left justified. There we go. All right, so it's the same one, but what we're saying in here, all right, what we're saying in here is that we don't want it to list our multiple vendor names. So we don't want repeats. So let's grab this one. You already saw what the last one looked like. All right, when we ran this last one, not there. When we ran the last one here, we got a total of 78. Some of these are repeats. When I run it again, and the only difference in there this time is this. All right, and we still need to say product ID in there. All right, so when we run it now, notice we've thrown out all of the repeats. Okay, none of these in here are the same anymore. Well, they're both Viscount. No, they're from 2 different vendors. Previously, we had things that were repeated in here. Now we have nothing that's repeated. So the answer to this one, all right, and again, I think they've got the ID written down there, is this. These 2 queries are virtually the same, except in number 7, we allowed for repeats. In number 8, we are not allowing for repeats. Other than that, again, it's the same query. All right. And I will tell you that in my first job as a programmer, all right, the first time I was ever programming professionally, I was writing code for telephony code for a telephone company. I had to do a lot of this stuff. And I will tell you again that the people who are the keepers of the data, that's typically your database administrators. They're some of the most powerful people in the company. All right, because if your data ever gets compromised, okay, if that data ever gets compromised, that can literally make a company go under. All right, because if you think, for example, oh, hey, I didn't charge you for this, and they can prove, yeah, you did. All right, they're not going to be happy campers. All right, so number 9, give the customer first name, customer last name. So we're going to get both those from the customer table. The order date and the ship date. We're going to get both those from the orders table. The retail price and the quoted price. All right, the retail price, I believe, is going to be from the products table, and the quoted price is going to be from the order details table. So it's going to be very similar to the kind of stuff we just did. All right, so there'll be a little bit of typing in here. And then in number 10, notice we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to add another field to it. So 9 and 10 are going to be very similar to one another. All right, so I'll just start typing here. And again, normally I would use the as in here, all right, to make the headings look a little better. I just decided to cut that out. I've got it in my key. I did use it, the as in there, but I want to make sure we get through this, either get through it or get darn close to getting through this by the end of the class period today. Now, sometimes what I like to do with this too is if you look, notice I've got C dot and C dot. Now I'm going to have O dot And then on the next line, I'm going to have a P dot. And then on the next line, I'm going to have an OD dot. All right. Did I have to put these? I could have put them all on the same line and let them wrap. That would have been totally fine. But to some people, again, what you're doing in here is you're starting to establish your own standard for doing things. All right. Some people like it like this because it makes more sense to them. They can see exactly what is coming from what table. All right. And what are we doing? We're doing all this, but we're doing it where the quoted price is not equal to the retail price. That could be something that's very important. All right. They could be the same. They could be different. When we're saying quoted price, quoted to who? This, if this is being quoted, let's say, I'm quoting it to Walmart. The price is not going to be equal to the retail price because they're going to jack it up, right? All right. But it just depends on here. I just wanted to, like I said, I wanted to give you enough variety, so to speak, in here so that you got to try a lot of this stuff. So this is going to be where OD.order detail quoted price is not equal, not equal to the P dot product price. And we're going to order that by O dot order ID. I'll leave the ascending out this time because again, you don't have to put it in. Now, this should work. Couple things. Again, I didn't use as in here, which would have been a little nicer. So again, let's just to show you, because this is a pretty good time to do this. I would normally have written this like this: as customer, first name, etc. I would have put them in like that, so the headings would have looked a little nicer. All right. But again, when I do that, now I have to go back and change all those smart tags, and it's just too big of a pain in the butt. So this should work unless I've mistyped something. Let me move this down so you can see the whole query. There it is. All right, incorrect syntax near period. And it's even showing me here. Okay, well, the problem is in this line here, I forgot my comma. I try to type fast, honest to goodness. I try to type fast, and there are times at least I hope I'm going to get errors. Why? Because those are the errors you're going to get when you do this. And I want you to be exposed to them so you can see the kind of things that are going to happen. So I put that comma in there, and now it looks like it worked. And when you look in here, in these last two columns, we've got product price and we've got the order detail price. All right. Some of them, and don't worry if what? The price is $75 and you were quoted. These are arbitrary amounts that were put in there. Okay. Don't worry about that. All right. It's can you write the query and do you have an understanding of what the query is attempting to do? That's what's important right here. And I said this to you yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. The average price, the average salary for a database administrator, and this was 2023, I'd read this online in more than one place, for a DBA at a bigger company was 175 grand a year. To be honest with you, if somebody offered me that, I wouldn't be here tomorrow because I'd be doing that. All right. So you can make a lot of money. And again, I told you that these are the keepers of the data. I've had to deal with these people. I've had bad run-ins with some DBAs, trying to get them to change a table or to do this or to do that. All right, where sometimes, yeah, not a problem. Other times, problem. All right, so that's number 9. So let's, again, red, bold. Okay. All right, the next one, didn't make it red, did I? The next one is the same thing, but it says we're supposed to add a calculated field on the end called savings, which represents the difference between the retail price and the quoted price. Then we are supposed to sort on that savings field. All right. So on savings in descending order, followed by the customer in ascending order, and we're only supposed to show the first 100 records. That's a mouthful, but let's just grab this and we'll make some changes to it. All right, hopefully we can fit this all on this page. All right, there it is. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want just the first 100. So I'm going to put in here top 100. And that's all that is going to select. That is the first 100. All right. Then we want the customer first name, the customer last name, all these goodies. All right. But after the quoted price, we want to add a new field. And there's where I forgot the comma, as you can see. All right. So we want to add another comma here. This is going to be our new savings field. All right. So this is going to be right here. And there's different ways of doing it. I used parens. It's not mandatory, but I said here, P dot product price minus OD dot order detail quoted price. And I will put in here as savings. If it's just one word like this, you don't need to put quotes around it. All right. Now, the only change in here is I want to change the order by in here. I want to order this by savings in descending order, then by customer ID. In ascending order. So again, I can put in ASC or I can leave it off. Either way should work. Let's try this and see if it worked. I don't know which one of these reads better for you. That's why I'm not sure whether to put it here, all right, or to put it in the actual program. I wanted to give you that program as we went over previously. And the reason I wanted to do that was it did allow me to show you the different steps that were in here. All right, so let's see. It's flagging this, but I don't know if it's going to give me errors or not. It did. Incorrect syntax near the minus. Okay, well, then we'll have to fix that. P dot product price should be minus OD dot quoted price. Okay, and it doesn't like parentheses in here either. So it says incorrect syntax near that. All right, as savings. Well, let's see if I do remove this. That isn't the problem. Okay. Funny thing is I ran all these last night. Of course they work just fine. Let's see, just for the heck of it, if I put that into the program and we run it in the program, if I get the same error or if I get a different, no error. That's the whole thing. You can see it's pretty big in here. And the formatting is screwed up, but all right. It's still saying incorrect syntax near that minus sign. You do use minus in there. You do use it for subtraction, which is what we want to do in here. So let's see. I retyped the minus. What did I do the first time? I don't have a flaming clue, except remember I copied this in from Word. So Word might have done something screwy with the minus sign. I don't know. All right, let's run it now. And now you can see we've got our new thing called savings. See a lot of them. Most of them look like they're the same amount in here. That would be a little suspect to me. All right. But when I'm looking at this, it looks like these are all running the same, which I don't like. So it looks kind of funky. All right. But that is what I did want to show you here. The fact that you can do math. All right. Now we went over some of that stuff yesterday. You may or may not remember. And when we went over that stuff yesterday, all right, I showed you the case statement as an example, as another place where you could actually do some programmatic type of work in here. All right. There is, for lack of better words, all right, because I've talked to people, like I said, who have done this in the past. It did change the minus sign, made it a big minus sign. Now that should be okay. All right. But I have talked to people in the past who have done this stuff, and some of them say, yeah, you can be a good database person and not have to know how to program. My only comment to that is BS. The more you know about anything, the better you're going to be at it. And there are certain programmatic things that you can add when you are working on something, all right, that can make what you're working on a heck of a lot easier. And if you say, I don't get it, you're going to when we look at some of the later examples in just a bit. All right. Okay, it's 9:40. I'm going to go until about 5 after 10, and then we'll take our next break. All right, and see how much we can get done in the meantime. So we're on number 11 here. We got 40% of it done. All right. So again, when you look at this, customer first name, customer last name, boom, should send a signal to you that what we're doing there is we're grabbing those two things from the customer table. Order number from the order table. Ship date. Notice what it says. Cast it as, and I even show you how you can cast it. Why cast it? Because remember what you put in there, what we put in there, we didn't put them in as dates. They're basically put in as strings. All right, so we're casting them as dates. All right, and we're using some math in here. Notice it's the date add. All right, we only want those orders that are shipped exactly 1 day after they're ordered. Why would we care about that? All right, well, we might change it to be, for example, less than or equal to 1. That means that those are the things that we're shipping out immediately. Or we could change that, and if we know that there's some things we're shipping out late, we could say, for example, greater than or equal to 7, which means that it's going to take more than a week before we can go and ship those out. So we may have to tell that to the customer. All right, who knows? Okay, all right. Kind of an ugly query, probably the longest one we've written thus far, but I'll do my best here. This is the casting. So cast, you use the word cast. As date, because it is a date. All right, we could give that a name, so I could put as ship date or something like that. Again, I'm not going into that much detail right now. And we also want to cast the order date. So this is the date it was shipped, and this is the day it was ordered. All right. One thing that happens here when you work on this, and I'm saying this, I put it like this before, and people think I'm trying to be funny. Believe me, I'm not. But if to be a really good database person, you get intimate with the data. You really do. You've got to know it pretty much inside and out. And the reason that you do is if something funky happens that is unexpected, boom, you know what the problem is. All right. And then you probably also know who made the problem. You're not going to sit there and you're writing code to do this stuff. You're not writing the code that's going to add these records to the database. That's a data entry person's job. But you have to understand, not only do you have to understand that, but if you remember from yesterday, I'm going to bring this back up. We haven't looked at it today. All right. Do I still have that in here? I have it someplace. This. All right. This is the way our database, if you remember, is set up. So you have to know what links with what which is the one side, our railroad track, in this entity relationship diagram, which has got the crow's feet in it, which is our many side. This is what you have to understand. And typically this involves you working closely with people at the company. This stuff might already exist, and it might, because I've done this before, where they've got everything, but guess what? It's all in paper form. And they want to basically electronicize, if you call it that, everything they're doing. So you have to set it up. They might not have databases. This might be a form, this might be a form, this might be on 2 or 3 forms. You have to figure out how that's set up. You have to work with the people who are going to use it, because if you put it into a format that they don't understand, guess what? They're going to keep using the old paper forms. And then they paid you to do a lot of money to do something that they're not using. So you're going to have to work hand in hand with these people. All right. It's just, that's the way it is. And the funny thing is, by and large, the people who get involved in this field, and you probably already all know this, by and large, most programmers, all right, they're introverted people. All right. I'm not saying everybody is. I've had students who've gone through here who are very extroverted, but I'm an introverted person. I might just sound like a big mouth now, but outside of here, my wife even says, we go places. She says, I do all the talking. You never talk. I talk when I feel like I've got something to say. And if I don't say anything. And then she said, well, okay, I'm not sure exactly what that means. And that's good, because I don't want her to know what it means. So next would be the product name, the product price. And again, we could rename those as well. And we're going to do some more joins. So from customers, C, and we want to join here. Join what? We want to join orders. So we're joining orders to customers. Orders is O on C dot customer ID equals O dot customer ID. And it doesn't matter which one of those you list first. Either one would be fine. And then another join where we're going to say order details, which we called OD, all right, on OD dot order ID equals O dot order ID. All right, that's 2. We've got one more join. All right, and that will be on products P on OD dot product ID equals P dot product ID. So those are our join statements. This is what we're selecting. Since it's in multiple tables, we're joining them together in here. So we're joining customer with orders, orders with order details with products. All right, and where is the criteria? All right, so I'm going to say date diff between day. Did I give that a name? Let's see. Well, I'm going to see if that gives me an error or not. O dot order date, O dot order ship date equal 1. Again, you know me. There's at least a chance I screwed something up typing this, but we'll see in just a second. All right, incorrect syntax near O. It's showing me right here. Cast O. And as you know, guess again, I forgot the comma here, which means I also forgot it here. All right, so let's see if that fixed it. I have no idea if it did or not. All right, invalid name customer. Why? Because it's customers. All right. Invalid name order date. Boy, what a great job, huh? All right, maybe order date would look a little better. And there we go. All right. And when you look in here, I should have renamed those, but notice 9392, 9392, 9493. All right. So let's just do this just because in this case, it's going to make more sense. So I'm going to say this one as ship date, and this one will say as order date. I'm going to make them one word so I don't have to worry about playing around with smart tags and the like on here. But now if I run it, now you can see this says ship date and that says order date. All right. And again, you know, I know I just keep pounding the same broken record, but it is important that you realize what we're doing here. All right. You are not becoming intimate with the data. No, you're not totally understanding the data. But what's important is that you have at least a minimal understanding of what we're doing. All right. That's what we're trying to get across in here right now. All right. So the next one is number 12. So show two different queries to show all of the customers in the customer table, except the one you put in. That was when we put in ourselves. So in other words, I'm going to come back to here so you see this, and I'm going to select star from customers. All right. I want to show all my customers. The last one that got put in here was me. I am customer ID 1031. Now I put a John Doe in there. You might not have John Doe. Yours might be 1028. It doesn't matter. All right. The idea is I want to list everybody except this one. All right. So rather than it giving me 29, it should give me 28 when I'm done. Okay. So we'll do it both ways. So first, I'm going to do it using, oops, I don't know what happened there. Oh, that's interesting. I never knew it did that. Okay. So first, we'll do it using the not equal operator. All right. So it's pretty simple query. Select star from customers where customer ID is not equal to, and mine again was, I believe, 10, double check, 1031. All right. Another way I can do this is instead of using that, I'm allowed also to put this in as a less than followed by a greater than for not equal. All right. And finally, we want to do it again. And we want to use using the not or the in operator. And in fact, we're going to use the not in. All right. So we're going to say here, not in, and then put that in parentheses. Now, why is this one even in here? Remember that if I write it like this, let's say that I don't want 1031 and I don't want 1029. So there's two of them I don't want. I have to then say select star from customers where customer ID not equal 1031 and customer ID not equal 1029. But if I do it with the not in, I can just come in here and put in a comma and put in as many customer IDs as I want. So this is a more extensible operator than the first two are. All right. I'm going to grab all of that. Don't know if it's going to handle these in here or not, but we'll see. I might get an error when I run this. Yep, it doesn't like okay. If I put this back, this was the All right, these are C# comments. That's not the way you write a comment in SQL. You put minus minus. So notice if I do that, it should take that as comments. All right. Now it's going to run it a bunch of times, but when you look in here, you'll notice it goes to 1030. So the last one is not shown here. 1031 is not shown. And that I could run any of these three and I'd get the same result. All right. So that is the answer to that one. All right. The next problem, believe it or not, 13 and 14 are mirror images almost of one another, except one is using anding and one is using oring. Why am I telling you that? Who cares? I want to show you a bad way to write this. Why? So I can show you a good way to write it. All right. So this is select all customers. These are contrived. Some of these queries are contrived. Why would somebody say, hey, John, write me a report and show me all the customers we have whose first name begins with a vowel? Why the hell would they care? But it's to demonstrate the stuff that's in here. That's all. So I could say this. I could say select star from customers. And I could say where customer first name, like, all right. So I could say like A, and then I could say or customer first name like E, or customer first name like O, or etc. Okay, and A, E, I, O, U. We're not considering Y to be a vowel. Well, that's not too bad, except then I have to check for the capitalized ones. So now there's 10. Then I have to say and do the same thing on the last name with a vowel. And I did it to make sure it would work, but it's an ugly as hell type of thing. So let's talk about a better way to do it. All right. Let me first come in here and bring in this smart tag. Okay. There it is. So I'm going to get rid of what we have here. And with the like, I'm going to put this in. That's smart tag. Then in brackets, I'm going to put in A, E, I, O, U. And if I want, I can even add A, E, I, O, U in my bracket and my smart tag. Oh, sorry, one more. And it's got to start with that with a vowel. So the star or %, start tag. All right. And customer last name, like, and we're going to do the same kind of thing we just did. Smart tag. But now it's got to end with a vowel. So %, A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U. All right. There is some kind of a capitalization function. I don't remember what it is. We could use it and run like an uppercase type of thing on here as well. All right. And we want to then order this by customer last name. And if there's any ties, so we got two people with the same last name, customer first name. Let's see if we wrote it correctly or not. I believe we have. So let me copy this, bold it, make it red, and I'll bring it into here for now. Whoops. Pretty small query, especially considering some of the other ones we've typed in. All right. And it's giving me no matches. Well, that ain't good. Let's think about why it might give me no matches. All right. Well, this may be screwing it up. I don't know. This may be screwing it up. I don't know. That's the first thing for me to look at. Somehow I got blank spaces in there. Still doesn't like it. Again, would you know it? Because I ran it at home and it ran fine. Select star from customers, where a first name like this. Well, one thing is, this is case insensitive. So technically, I don't need this, and I don't need this. I could have put them in capitals. or I could have put them in lowercase, and it should have worked. All right. So let's see. We got that. Got that. Okay, here's the problem. See that percent sign? That's got to be like this. Because what I was searching for was a percent sign in the name. We don't have any names with percent signs in them. Now let's look. We have one. Okay, who is that? It is Andrew Cancini. Andrew, first name, starts with an A. Cancini, his last name ends with an I. He is the only person amongst these 28 or 29 customers that has a first name that starts with a vowel and a last name that ends with a vowel. All right, so that is correct. Grab that. Put that into here. Of course, it always funkies it up. So we'll just copy that over. All right, so that is it. Now, the next one is the same query, except, again, there was a reason for having you write this. Instead of using and, we're going to use or. Other than that, it is the same query. So here is it. Here it is with an and. It came back with one thing that it matched. Because with and, this has to be true. Come on, get out of there. This has to be true, and this has to be true. Now we're going to do it with an or. So now this has to be true, or this has to be true, or both true. To show you again the difference between anding and oring. So you're going to notice typically when you do an or, virtually all the time, you're going to get more back. So here we get back 8 of them. And you notice we've got what? Andrew starts with an A, Elena starts with an A, Angel starts with an A, Estella starts with an E. Then we've got Kirk, DeGrasse ends with an E, Doe ends with an E, McCrae ends with an E, and Sergioco, or whatever it is, ends with an O. All right, and again, this was just designed to show you the difference when you're going in here and you're writing these. All right, they're very similar queries to one another, but again, not identical to one another. All right. All right, let's do one more, then we're going to take our next break. So show the query to select all category descriptions. The category descriptions are inside of a table named categories. The product names, which will probably be in a table called products. All right. The retail price and retail prices. All right. Well, that's the product price. Sort the results by category description in ascending order, then retail price in descending order. Well, this one is another join, but it's a simpler one because we're only joining the categories table to the products table. So there'll be only one join statement. When you join 2 tables, there'll be 1 join statement. When you join 3 tables, there'll be 2 join statements. Earlier, we joined 4 tables and we had 3 join statements. So there'll always be, when you are joining tables, there will always be 1 less join statement than there are the number of actual tables you're joining. All right, so again, let's do this one and we'll take a break. You know what, let's just put everything in lowercase. I'm kind of sick of playing around with capitalization, and you don't have to, so. This is the retail price, so I am going to say here as retail price. All right, and that'll be from categories, which we called C, and we're going to join we're joining products. And again, it doesn't matter which one we're doing here, but it's categories. So it's being joined to products, which we're calling P on C dot category ID equals P dot category ID. All right, and we want to do an order by in here. C dot category description. In ascending order, and then product price. All right, so P dot product price. And that'll be in descending order. All right, hopefully I wrote that correctly. Okay, there you go. So notice our descriptions here, category description, our accessories, then our bikes, then our car racks, etc. And in here are prices. So these are all of our accessories, and here they are in descending order. All right, so that one was correct. So let me go back. Whoops. Let me go back again. I saw that article and I thought it might be interesting. So that is number 15. All right, it is 10:05. Let's take 10 minutes. We'll come back and see how many of the rest of these last 10 we can write. Again, you'll find there'll be some similarities. Bikes or wheels, not bikes or wheels, for example. These are almost the same query, but this will have a not with it. So hopefully we can finish this up in our next go around here. Come back again at 10:15, please. Questions on anything you've seen? You're welcome to stick around. I'll be here till 5 to 12. Okay. You know, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
You guys go over Python as well?
No.
No Python. Okay.
Most of the books we get are from a company called Muroc. And I have asked them for some Python books with the idea that I would suggest that we have a Python class. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do a proposal on that, but I don't know if it'll go anywhere or not. But as you guess, with 4 classes, every time you add something, you have to remove something. Now, that last class that you see in there, that AWD1100, up until 2 years ago, it was a Java programming class, and I taught students how to make Android applications. And we made about 12 of them as a class. They made about 5 or 6, of their own. Then they had to design one from scratch and put it out on the App Store. That was the one time students had to outlay some cash because it's a one-time $25 charge to put something out on the App Store. Yeah. All right. And I even told them the year before, I said, now start saving a quarter a week and you should have, and I have enough money, or 50 cents a week, whatever. But what we found out, we have 2 meetings per year, where the first one we have in fall, it's called an advisory committee. And we've been having them with over Teams. So, but we have people who hire our employees and they come in, and my boss basically asks what works, what doesn't work, and what we're doing here. What are we teaching that we should be teaching? What are we teaching that we shouldn't be teaching? Then we do the same thing in spring, but it's called an alumni advisory committee, because we bring in people who've graduated within the last 1 to 3 years. We ask them basically the same questions. What we found out at our meeting 2 years ago was that no one was getting a job as an Android developer. They liked the Java, and a couple people got Java related jobs. But what we heard from a lot of people was, Dan, it would be really nice if you could do some back-end type of programming here, because I'm doing it now and I had no training in it whatsoever. That's why that class morphed. It used to be AWD1112. Like I said, it was an Android programming class. Now it's AWD1115, and it's database-driven web development too.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not saying that's an impossibility. Another thing they've talked about here is trying to offer some certificates where people could come in for maybe a few weekends and do something. The trouble that you have with that is, as you can imagine, in my typical day, not this semester, but usually I go from 8:05 till 11:55. I get a 10-minute break and I go from 12:05 to 3:55. Plus, as you probably guess, there's a lot of prep work and grading and whatever. So they would either have to pay people a heck of a lot to come in and do nights or to do weekends, or they'd have to hire external people in. And in the past, they've had very mixed results at this institution with hiring a lot of external people. They've done it, for example, they've hired some external people in for like general education classes. And I know at least one person, I think she still works here, that she was doing gen eds at like 3 different colleges. And actually, that's not a bad thing because chances are pretty good. She must have been pretty good if she can get employed and stay employed at 3 different places. We had a situation, this was about 4 or 5 years ago. At the time, this program's only been online now for about 3 years. And before that, I've been here 8 years. So before that, I was actually in the classroom. I was over in the other building in the classroom. But it's stuff has changed over time. Let's just put it that way. And the way we do things has changed over time. In many ways, even though the students here probably wouldn't agree with it, they become a lot more lax here. Right? As an example, my boss, if he'd see you right now, there's nothing wrong with the way you look. But if, let's say, you were a student and you came in, he'd probably say, you're supposed to shave. And if you want to grow a beard, you're supposed to grow the beard during the break. And I don't even know what you'd call this. I don't even want it, but my kids want me to keep it. So it's got to be a certain length, or they can, in fact, we had a guy, Eric, I remember this when I was teaching in the classroom. This must have been almost the first year I was here. And he started coming in like this. So one day he comes in and my boss asked me his name. Said, it's Eric. I don't remember his last name. I remember it was Eric. Walks up to him and he goes, Eric, how you doing? He looks at me, he doesn't know who my boss is. He goes, fine, how are you? He goes, not shaving this morning? No, I didn't have time. He goes, well, make time for it tomorrow. And then he left and Eric asked me who it was. I said, that's an department head. You really should listen to him. And so the next day Eric came in, he wasn't shaved. And my boss comes up to me and said, I told you that yesterday. He goes, yeah, I know, but I didn't have, I didn't have any shave cream and my razor's real dull. My boss goes, that's okay. Pulls out a razor from his pocket, pulls out shave cream from another pocket. Go in the bathroom and do it right now. This guy, he had a fit. He didn't like it. He said that we were being discriminatory against men. If he was a woman, he wouldn't have to shave his legs or whatever. And it was like, my goodness, it was pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. But I mean, now they're a lot more lax. We had a guy who came in here, an African-American gentleman who had hair down to his shoulders. It was beautiful hair. It was braided and it had something to do with his religion. All right. It was some African religion. I don't remember what it was. And they told him he had to cut his hair. He said, I can't because of my religion. They actually made amends. He had to cut it, but not totally. They let him longer than most, were. But now I see people walking around here. I mean, I saw a guy walk in the other day. He had clogs on. I could care less, what people wear. But you get 2 grades here. You get an A, B, C, or F. We don't give Ds. If you get below a 74.5, you fail. All right. But we also get what's called a WEG. It's a work ethic grade. And you get 1 of 4 grades. You get a DNM, which is does not meet. So for instance, if you were coming every day and let's just say you were told to shave and you never shaved, something like that, you might get it does not meet. There's an NI, a needs improvement. There's an ME, which meets expectations, and there's an EE, which exceeds expectations. It's very hard for me to give EE grades now because I don't see these people. So the majority of them, unless they're troublemakers, and I haven't really had any, but unless they be troublemakers, they get ME, meets expectations. But I still have to fill it out, even for online. The online all the gen ed classes are online. All the gen ed instructors still have to fill those out. And a few years ago, we had a guy and I'm not making this up either. We had a guy who came to one of our advisory committee meetings, and he was walking around. I introduced myself to him, and we just started talking, and he said, I only hire people from Rankin, and I only hire people who've got EEs that exceeded expectations. He said, I've never had one that has failed me. So, again, it just kind of depends, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, they have become more lax here over time than they used to be. All right, it's 10:15, so let's write these next two. Show a query to select all category descriptions from the categories table, product names from the products table, retail prices from the products table. That's the product price. But we only want to do it for a category of bikes or wheels. All right, so it's going to be similar to this one, I think. So I'm going to grab that one, try to, and copy it in and see. So we got the category description, the product name, the price from categories. We're doing the join, but now we need a where in here. All right, so we're going to say where C dot, again, I was category description. I can either say equal bikes. I'm not going to keep this, so I can remove it in a second. All right. Or, and I can say category description equal wheels, but that's the hard way of doing it. The easy way of doing it is to say category description in, then in a parenthesized list. I'll bring this back, copy this. All right, and we've got bikes. Why it's putting this extra space there, and we've got wheels. All right, other than that, it's basically the same query we just wrote. All right, but we only want these two categories. So let's grab this. Let's take a look at what we had. You'll notice that we had 40 because that's how many products are on our table. All right, when we go back and rewrite this now, okay, we've got, it goes down to 7. But you'll notice, okay, when you look in here that the description is either bikes or it's wheels. There are not repeats here. All right. So that is number 16. Number 17 is the same query, but we're told to put a not in front of that. So not. So when I do this, there should be no bikes category. There should be no wheels category. Accessories, it goes right to car racks, to components. You notice there's 33. There's no, all right, there's no wheels in there. All right. So it's the same query. Copy that. Let me get rid of a line here. Paste that in here. And this would be not in. All right. So that's those two. I'll leave them up for a second. So if you want to copy them or do whatever, you're able to do so. All right. We've got 17 down and 8 to go. All right. Hopefully you had a chance to do that then. All right. Show the query to select all category descriptions, product names, retail prices, wholesale prices, and vendor names. All right. And then the next one will be the same thing basically, but we only want to do it for a vendor name of Lone Star Bike Supply or a category of bikes. And then the next one will be the same as that one, but only for, this is an or and this is an and. All right. So let me write this one, and I'm going to end up copying it twice and just making some kind of superficial changes to it. All right. There are editors that you can use to work with this stuff too. All right, that will provide some IntelliSense. Okay, so I mean, doing this in Word like I'm doing it right here, I'm doing it in Word because I can make it bigger so you can really see what's going on. All right, but I would probably be writing this inside of Visual Studio or something else where I'd have IntelliSense and I wouldn't have to worry about some of these goofy things that have happened so far. All right, like having to put in smart tags as opposed to non-smart tags, etc. That is not good. All right, there is a short in my cable here. I don't want to do this, but I am going to switch these two around. So I'm going to undo that. Put this one, if I can, into here. Give me just a second here. I'm trying to. Hopefully that'll work. And hopefully I'll have enough battery on this one that I won't run out of the other one. So all right, again, let's hope I didn't screw up any of the typing because this is going to be 18, 19, and 20 after I make a couple changes. A lot of them. Okie dokie. Let's go back to the other one. There are a lot of mistakes in my typing here. So let me go back to this. Actually, I don't want to do it there. Go to here. Come on. There we go. All right. Let's see all the errors that I got here. Line 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's products P. That'll fix that one. All right, now run it again. Oh, that was it. Okay, that isn't too bad. All right, so again, what are we showing here? Well, we're showing each category, the product for each category, their retail price, their wholesale price, and the vendor who sells them. Okay, so let me grab this because it is correct. We paste that in here. Of course, it funkies up the way it looks. Fix that. All right, I'll leave, whoops, and I'll leave that up there for just a second. Now, the next problem that's here is the same thing, but we only want to do it for a vendor name of Lone Star Bike Supply or a category of bikes. So it's possible something could be a Lone Star Bike Supply bike or a Lone Star Bike Supply non-bike or a non-Lone Star bike or a non-Lone Star non-bike. So those are our possibilities in there. So it's the same query we just did with just a little caveat or a little bit added to it. All right, so on the end here, we need a where before our order by. So we want to say where v.vendor name equal Lone Star bike supply. I don't have to fix those goofy things again. Or C.category description equal bikes. Remember, again, that stuff is case insensitive. So let's grab this, copy. Right. Other than that, it's the same query that we just did. Let's see if I screwed it up. Hopefully I did not. When we just ran this again, we had, it looks like 90. There are 90 products, I believe, in here. So, but now we're only looking for these two matches, and it's this or this. So it knocked it down to 37. And you'll notice when we look in here that either it's Lone Star Bike Supply, which are all these, or it's bikes for the category in here. Here's some more Lone Star. And the reason it looks a little funky like that is we're doing it based on the category description. All right. And if we did it by vendor name, then we'd have all of our Lone Star bikes together. So if we flip these two things here, so if I did this, like that, and ran it, we're going to get the same output, but notice now, all right, it's in descending order, but viscount, etc. All right, so I'm just going to leave that the way that it is. All right, so that was number 19. Number 20 is the same query, all right, but we're going to get less things back from it because rather than saying or here, we're going to change that to an and. Remember that when you do an and, both sides have to be met. Let me put that on a new page. All right, so the only change that's going to be in here is going to be and. Virtually 100% of the time, you will get more results back when you do an or than you will when you do an and. Because the or is more inclusive, the and is less inclusive. All right, or the and is more restrictive, however you want to look at that. All right, so let's run this one. And again, previously we got 37 results. That was one or the other. Now this is an and you'll notice it's knocked down to 3. And in each case, all right, in each case, the category description is bikes, and in each case, the vendor name is Lone Star Supply. All right. So we got 5 to go. We're not doing too badly here. All right, see if we can get this done. When we're done, this is, like I said, this is a hell of a lot to throw at you. All right, on Monday, because tomorrow's a lab day, so on Monday, we're going to look at another database. Why, Jeff? Well, we're looking at another database because I have managed to pilfer the one that Mr. Gudmested uses, all right, in his classes. And I'm going to tell you, I got to watch what I say here. This is being taped, right? I got to tell you what Mr. Gudmeston shouldn't have done when he created some of these tables, right? And I told you this before. When I say this, I'm not saying what I'm about to tell you and patting myself on the back. But when I got my master's degree, This is what I did it in, was on database and database design. He did some stuff with the way he set his database. The database is set up just fine. But the way he set up his schema and the way he set some of these primary keys up left a little bit to be desired. So I fixed it up. He may appreciate it. He may think, well, screw you, buddy. And either way, it's okay. All right. I'm not saying that to him anyway. And I'm by no means am I saying, hey, I'm better than him or whatever. He is a phenomenal person and a phenomenal instructor. All right. So let's jump back into here. We are now up to number 21. So this is what we have left, 21 through 25. All right. Show the query to select all employee first names, last names, order IDs, product IDs, and quantity ordered. All right. So we're going to be joining 3 tables here. We're going to be joining the employee table, on the order detail table, and on the orders table. All right. And again, I can't say this to you too many times. That is, oh, Jeff, these are really contrived queries. They're kind of stupid. Yes, they are. But what I want you to get out of it is a manner of doing this stuff. We're going to go back then and we're going to look at a very similar one, but we only want it when they ordered more than 4. Then we're going to do it again where they do it and we want it not equal to 4. So you can see these different operators and these different operations. And by running very similar queries on the same data, you can get markedly different results back. All right. And that's what really we're trying to get across here. All right. You do not leave this class and say, you know, my God, I could just leave this place now and get a flaming job as a database person and make 175 grand a year, like Mr. Scott says. It's not probably going to happen unless your father or mother owns the company. Then it might. All right. But other than that, it probably won't. And I'm going to put each type in here on its own line so you can see what's going on. All right. Now, right here, I'm only grabbing stuff from 2 tables, but so it's employees and orders. If I go back and look at this, do I still have that picture up? Thought I did. And of course I don't, but I'm going to bring it up because I want to show you something. All right. So what I want to do is I want to bring up stuff from employees and orders. All right. But who cares? Well, you can see they are linked to one another, but the information I need, guess what? Isn't in orders, it's in order details. There is no exact linkage between employees and order details. So I have to join employees to orders and orders to order details to get what I want. That's what this exercise is designed to show you. Sometimes you have to bring in other tables from which you don't want any information, but they're necessary so that you can join together tables to get the information you want. All right. And I mentioned this to you yesterday. Order details. All right. What is that? Well, that's orders, but that's each order. Product vendors. What is this? All right. It's a combination of products and vendors right here. Because we don't have a link between product and vendor. So we created a junction or a join table that allowed us to actually combine that information. All right, enough sermonizing. Let's go back and write these now. All right. Again, even though I'm putting select and from and join, this could all be in lowercase. Just to prove it, let's make this lowercase write the whole flaming query in lowercase. Okay, that's everything. Again, let's see if I got it right or not. So we'll bold that just in case and make it red. All right. Yeah, do it in the other one. I think they should get it. I think it shows better in here. All right. Up. I didn't copy it in. This is the one we ran previously. So let me copy it again. Not sure what I did, but something. So copy. And run it. All right, incorrect syntax by the from. Well, there's an extra comma. Okay. And there it is. It's just all this is doing right here is displaying some information. It's no biggie as far as what the query is. All right. Then we want to do it again. So I'm going to copy this and I need to get rid of that comma that I put in there. So that was this. I had an extra comma right there. All right. I want to copy this query, but I want to add some criteria on there, which says we're going to be putting an where statement in between, all right, in between the joins and the order by. So it's OD dot order detail quantity ordered greater than 4. All right, so every one of these should have more than 4 of the 4 ordered, is what we're saying. Okay. Well, order detail quantity ordered, not orders. And when you look at it, all right, each one of these should have a quantity ordered greater than 4. Are we even printing out the quantity ordered? It doesn't look like it. You know what? We don't have to, but let's print it out just so we can, you know, I should have had you print that out too. So let's put that in there as well. All right. All right. And there is the quantity ordered. 6, 6, 5, and it ends. Those are all greater than 4. All right. Probably was correct as it was, but I'm just going to copy it back in anyway and fix the formatting. All right. Now, the next one says run the same query, but you want everything that is not equal to 4. So all I have to do in here is to put in that, which is our not equal. All right. I could choose not in 4. I could use an exclamation point with an equal sign. Either one of those would work as well. So when I grab this, what you should notice then when I run this one, there's my 6s. There's my 5s, but it should go right to 3 because we didn't want it equal to 4. So we're still at 5s. And there's 3s. So it goes from 5 to 3. All right, so that one worked. All right, 2 left. All right, so the next one, I'm going to put these both on a new page. Next is do a union query. Now, we talked about unions yesterday. What we're going to do is we're going to basically do the equivalent of making a list. That list will have on it every one of our customers' first names and last names, every one of our employees' first names and last names. It is technically plausible that one name could appear more than once if you had an employee who was also a customer. All right, we could use distinct. I'm not going to. All right, I just wanted to show you, again, we did go over an example of this yesterday, but I want to show you an example of how you would do a union. So again, we'll do these last ones all in lowercase, and we'll spell them correctly even. All right, that's it. Now, before we run this, a couple things. We talked about this yesterday. If you want a union like this, it's totally fine to do this. All right. But I'm going to bring up the customers table quickly, and I'm going to bring up the employees table quickly. All right. So let's go back in here and let's look at customers, and let's bring up the design. And what you'll notice is first name and last name are both nvarchar, which means they're variable length of size 25. And if I bring up the employees, they're both nvarchar of size 25. Funky things can happen even if they're both nvarchars, but they have different sizes. Weird stuff can happen. Sometimes it'll work, but I've seen it where it'll lock up sometimes. And if one of these was a varchar and one was an nvarchar, technically, even though they're the same data type, that can break it. So you've got to be comparing apples with apples or oranges with oranges. Now, when you look on this, notice we've got first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, area code, phone number. Okay, fine. We look at this one. We've got first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, area code, and phone number. They're the same. But if we wanted to add every field in here, do not add the ID field. Even though they're both IDs, don't do that anyway. You're unioning the data. Technically, we just put the ID in there so we've got some way to refer to them. All right. But all we're doing in here, like I said, is we're coming in here and we're doing the equivalent of creating a list. And we're grabbing that list from two different sources. All right, so let's grab this, copy it again, bold in red, and let's try to put it in and see what happens here. So I don't need this, and I don't need, I'll just do it right here, that's fine. All right. So how many customers do we have? I think it's like 29. How many employees do we have? I think it's 8. So 29 and 8, 30, I get 36 here. So I probably have 28. I probably have 28 customers and I have 8 employees. And again, it is not implausible that I could have some matches here. That'd be kind of a cool thing to do. All right, we could do some work and try to figure out, do we have anybody using both tables? All right. And ideally, if you work for a company, they'd probably want you to shop at there with them. All right. So there's that one. So that's number 24. So finally, we got one left, which is not too bad. Show the query to select each customer's first name, last name, order number, product number, and quoted price. In fact, this is a very similar to one we did earlier. So again, select C dot customer first name, C dot customer last name, We'll put these on separate lines so you can see what's going with what. O.order ID, OD.product ID, OD.order detail quoted price from customers C, join. Oh, do that here too. So join orders O on C.customer ID equal O.customer ID. And I want to mention something about this. All right. Notice that we're not grabbing any customer ID here. Let me put the next one in here because there's one more join. So join order details, OD on order, OD dot order ID equals O dot order ID. And it may seem like it's something very minor, but I want to make sure that you see this. All right. And that is, if you look in here, we're printing out the order ID and we're printing it out from the orders table. It also exists in the order details table. It should not matter which table you print it out from. Since all these joins we've been doing have been equijoins, we've been joining when things are equal to one another. All right. So to my knowledge, at least, everything should be cool. All right, let's try this last one and see if it works. All right, there it is. Okay. Now, what we've done then is I've given you 25 different queries that we went over in the span of about 2.5 hours. All right. I'm going to very quickly, and I mean very quickly, just put these up again. So if you missed anything, it's up there. So there's numbers 1 and 2. So again, if you have to, hit the print screen key and copy it into a paint file. All right. Then we had 3 and 4, which are right here. From there, we started doing some joins. So there's 5 and 6. More joins. So there, make it a little smaller. There are 7 and 8. Right. There is number 9. Here is number 10. Again, many of these queries were similar to one another. All right. They just had a few superficial changes. All right. Do this on this one, don't do it on the other one type of thing. There is 11 and 12 right there. There is 13. $14 was very similar. There are 14 and 15. And actually, can I get them all? Nope. There's 14 and 15 right there. There are 16 and 17. Like this. There's 18. There's 19. There is 20. There are 21 and 22. There is 23. I think I could probably fit that on the same page. So there is 23. And there are 24 and 25. All right. Tomorrow is a lab day, and on Monday of next week, I'm going to bring in Mr. G's database. I'm planning on it if I have time to look at it a little more this weekend. He called it Henry. I think it's Henry's bookstore, but I'm not sure. All right. By the end of next week, we will have gone through that one, and we're going to write a bunch of queries. He actually has given out some worksheets, and we're going to do the worksheets because you're going to write the queries twice. We're going to write well, we could write them 3 times too, I suppose, but we're going to write them as SQL queries, and we're going to write them as link queries. So you can see the difference between those and how you have to handle them differently. All right. Plus next week, at sometime next week, I've got to clean this up, but I'm going to hand out your end of the semester project. Now, the only other thing I want to say quickly in here is this. There we go. So this week, we had 4 days. Next week, I think I'm going to need 3. I'm sorry. All right. And then Thursday and Friday of next week, that I'm going to do my darndest to make them labs. And then the next week, 21 with 2 days of lab, and 22 with 2 days of lab. That'll complete the book. So again, the last week of class will be for you to work on the project and for your portfolio. You already know this, but when they are lab days, I'm not sending out an email. I'm not doing any taping. So you will get an email from me a little later today, and at the end of it, it'll say, thanks, have a nice weekend. Yeah, I know it's Thursday, but there won't be anything passed out on Friday. I will be online tomorrow. So if you do have questions, please let me know. All right. So with that said, thank you for those of you who joined in live. Hope the rest of you will watch on tape. I will see you on Monday, which is the 8th, I think. Yep. On Monday, the 8th, I'll see you at 8:05. Have a good weekend. Thanks. A lot of them, they're off. So, and that's cool. I have absolutely no problem with that. I think I'd probably be the same way, to be honest with you.